What's up, guys? Subzeric here, back for another VOD review. We are doing another Ego Illusions VOD Rank 1 World, and notably just got signed by Team Liquid, actually. I did not know about this. I would love to think that me VOD reviewing him twice played into that, but obviously that's not the case. But yeah, congrats on Ego Illusions for getting signed. He changed his name to Liquid Ego. He's going to be playing with the other TL players in the big Esports World Cup tournament. The other ones... Who's on Liquid now? It's Replay. They added T-Lides, and then is Kurum still Liquid? I believe it's those four are a team for that tournament, which should be really cool. But that's happening in set 12. That is neither here nor there. Let's watch some of Ego Illusions smurfing on his Brazilian account, sitting at 2200 LP. I was talking last time about how he was 2400 LP, but he took 2/8, and those 2/8 dropped him over 200 LP. So I believe after this game, he's still rank 1 world, but it's a lot closer now than it was before. I mean, if he wanted to be dishonorable, he could have just sat, but, Ego Illusions does not want to sit. Ego Illusions also sees some fantastic augments here. We have the Prismatic Wandering Trainer, which is just very fun to play around. There's also the Accomplice, which is just good overall. I'm actually surprised he goes for Wandering Trainer here, because you basically have to take this at this point, because this is such a high variance augment, and I feel like when you're playing on these servers, on a server where you think you're better than everybody, I assume you wouldn't take a high variance augment like this, but he's going to go for it here, and he gets a really interesting combination here. Sniper, Heavenly, Dragon Lord. Not too much. The only thing that you could really see from this position is like a Dragon Lord plus Heavenly setup where, you throw Lee Sin onto your board, and it makes a lot of sense. But I will say, I took a peek at the VOD, and that's actually not what Ego Illusions plays this game. He plays a really interesting board, so I wanted to show this off to you guys. But he is, of course, going to hold on to these Heavenly units, going to try to hold on to Sniper as well, but runs out of time at the last second. And we also get a really interesting encounter here, this one where we're transforming the units on our bench into units of the same cost, the Pandora's bench augment, basically. So this makes things pretty interesting. We also have a Janna Shen as our potential exalted. I didn't see what the last one was. It's probably the Janna Shen Alun one, if I had to guess, because that's, I mean, how many are there that have Janna Shen? Like, surely there aren't that many others. But I mean, still, could be something that we could look at later. He's actually duplicating 1 costs right now, which I like to potentially look for like 2-star 1 cost here. We have like Garen paired, I believe. So yeah, and there is the Garen paired, or the Garen 2 even, and we also have a Caitlyn 2 that we can play around. He does pick up Tristana, which allows him to play for Fortune here, and it looks like maybe he's considering it. He also, yeah, he does have that Exalted as a possibility. There's so many options here, actually. He's just going to opt to play Strongest Forward here, which is the other option that you can do. You can just play the Guarantee, you can play the Caitlyn too. But I wonder if after losing this fight, he opts to swap into Fortune here, because we don't really have a streak after this fight. The board is not really that strong. I mean, it never really was that strong because of the fact that we can't slim an item here. The only thing that we really have, I mean, Gargoyle is a very reasonable slam. I think he's really just trying to figure out what his setup is going to be this game, because he has Gargoyle open, but he didn't really want to make it. Looks like we're going to pick up Aphelios here just to start looking like we're going to play it towards snipers this game. And yeah, Ego Illusions fully says, I mean, I have +1 sniper. My augment is just going to allow me to play vertical sniper. I'm going to do that. But I will say, we go on a journey for sure this game. So we can fit an Exalted here. We can even fit... We can't fit Exalted Fortune? Can we not? Okay, there's Exalted. Yeah, it looks like we can't fit Exalted Fortune until level 6. Looks like maybe Tristana wasn't Exalted, but he does opt to just fit in 3 Exalted here, plus the Story Weaver, which, I mean, is solid. We'll still have an okay board, but get to farm the XP from Exalted. We play this for, at least a couple of rounds so that we can get that value out of it. We could, at the earliest, cut it 3-1, or, maybe we'll just keep it for the majority of the mid-game. We'll see. There's a lot of options here. Still reforging these 1 costs on our bench here to look for maybe like a Civ or 2 to actually make the board stronger. But yeah, I mean, right now, it looks like we're very much considering playing around the sniper setup. And it makes sense, right? +1 sniper. The Prismatic +1 sniper augment is one of the best augments in the game. I think it might be the best Prismatic in the game at 2-1. Now, that gives you a Gwynsu and an Aphelios as well as the sniper +1. But the upside is that we have the sniper +1 and it's on a frontliner, which means that, we could play 6 sniper and still have decent frontline. And boom, there's an Alawi as well, which really incentivizes you to want to play this. Also, We have the Kog'Maw, we have the Senna, and we have the Alawi. Like, I would honestly, yep, I like this a lot. We pivot this as our board. We're going to sell here to make 30, and then our level up is just going to be Alawi here, and our board looks fantastic. So, yeah, I think this makes perfect sense. I mean, we could even play the Alawi over the Shen here. Also, yeah, I fully expect us to sell there to make 30 gold because we want to have some amount of gold to play this game out with. But yeah, I mean, you could just play this over the Shen. You could, yeah, I think this is perfect, and we'll sit on this board for now. Item-wise here, if you want to keep the Gwinsu component for Ashe, and this can be Last Whisper IE component, you could either go Gargoyle or like Bramble Declaw. You could also go Vow Declaw. I think Vow Declaw might be my favorite, or Vow Gargoyle, just because Vow is such a good item onto Nautilus later. The only problem is you're probably throwing the Vow onto Alawi for now. I wonder. I mean, it's just Bramble is such a bad item, but Declaw is such a good item, so I'd be tempted to just slam a Bramble Declaw here and then just hold on to the tier, but I could fully see the Vow being made. And yeah, he's just going to go with the Bramble Declaw. Okay. And he puts it onto Garen, which is kind of interesting. I mean, Garen too, of course, a decent tank. I'm so high on this Alawi unit that I would have thrown it onto her, but maybe he thinks Garen 2 is actually stronger than Alawi 1. I mean, if, 2-star 1 cost versus 1-star 3 cost is usually not exactly like a toss-up. Usually it just sort of depends on the unit quality. But yeah, augment-wise here, we get another Prismatic here. We're going to reroll the left and right and take Pandora's items Prismatic version, and we get a Radiant blue buff here. And this is where Ego Illusions starts to cook a little bit here. He gets this Radiant blue buff, and you know what he says? He picks up the Silas in shop, and he says, you know what? I'm going to take this Radiant blue buff. I'm going to keep it. Which means we can't play Ashe this game. Okay, and he thinks for a while. He thinks for a long time on it, and opts to make the JG as well, and says, okay, we have to play around some kind of AP carry this game, right? It could be like a Lilia Ashe setup. It could just be the Silas forever, but we have to play around some kind of AP carry this game. But I think this is such an interesting call from Ego Illusions, but he knows this is going to allow him to play strongest forward. He doesn't want to wait for this Pandora's forever to like hatch into some like really good Ashe item, and like the blue buff is good enough. I mean, surely if he saw like a Radiant Gwinsu's or something, this game would have looked drastically different. He would have just gone for Radiant Quincy's on Ashe, and he would have just played the game plan that we were going for before. But because we have this Radiant Blue buff, he does not want to wait forever and lose, all of this tempo without building the Radiant Blue. And I mean, you can see why. Look, these fights are so close, where if he had a Radiant item on bench, he would obviously lose the last two fights. He wins both of these, keeps his streak here, and now he just has to do the hard work of figuring out what his board is actually going to look like, because yeah, he has to get out of it. So looking at what we're going to put in here, he decides that we're going to play around Morgana plus Lilia. I think this makes perfect sense from this position. Also, he's holding onto this Galio, which could be a potential in. But the idea is that with the Sniper +1, we can potentially get to either force Sniper or maybe like cut the Kog'Maw down the line. The Kog'Maw's Invoker as well, so we'll see what that ends up being. With the Heavenly +1 that fits really well with Nico, and with the Dragonlord +1 that fits really well with the Yana. So it kind of all works out. I kind of love how it works out here. We also get Morello components here, so we just opt to slam the Morello. Fantastic item for the Morgana later. So I really like this kind of solve from Ego Illusions, where he thought about playing the Sniper comp, then he immediately gets the Radiant Blue buff and says in his head immediately, okay, I'm going to pivot my idea of what I'm playing. I'm going to pivot into this Morgana Lilia comp. Just really just clean stuff, right? He's not doing anything like I'm like playing some weird comp that doesn't even exist, that sucks, and he's like going to run it down and go 8th. He has this like, index of all the different comps in his mind, and then he just picks the one that makes the most sense. It's kind of like last game that we VOD reviewed from him, where he knew he wanted to play the Warden comp, but he hit an early game unit, and so he knew he hit the Ornn too early and used that to transition him into that board. This same time, he had the idea of playing one comp, and now he's going to play something different that makes sense. So I think this it's a very smart way to play around this augment that looked really awkward, and now that we have the idea of playing around the Lilia comp, it's really well. The Sniper makes sense for the Kog'Maw. I guess that's actually just going to be, now that I think about it, we're probably not even going to play Ashe on our board, right? We're just going to play a random Kog'Maw on our board. I think we will end up just playing Kog'Maw, but like, yeah, Sniper for Kog'Maw, not really that big of a deal. But, the big thing is getting Heavenly, getting Dragonlord, pretty reasonable. And yeah, he's putting all this stuff in. Looks like he's not even thinking about playing around the Sniper, so he's just going to use the Heavenly Dragonlord, which makes a lot of sense. Item components here, we get a full static Shiv drop, so why not make a full static Shiv? It's fantastic in this comp. You can throw that onto Lilia. Now we have a 3-item Lilia done, and then we just throw the other item onto Morgana, would be my guess item-wise, but we'll see what the final board itemization ends up being. But yeah, Augment-wise, here we get a third Prismatic. We don't really need Radiant Refractor. You could take this and go for like a double Radiant setup, which would be pretty fun, but none of the, I mean, we could actually make Radiant Static Shiv, which is kind of interesting because the stats really, really love Radiant Static Shiv. But Ego Illusions, I did peek at this Augment as well. Takes an Augment that's really cool. I think I probably would have taken this and made Radiant Static Shiv, but he says, you know what? This game's already been so crazy. I'm gonna go for the Call to Chaos. It's pretty disastrous. He gets the Volibear 3-star and just immediately sells it and says, I'm not playing this Volibear on my board. I mean, it really hats off to Ego Illusions for not getting dizzy there. I think I absolutely would have tried to figure out how to fit this Volibear, but he in his head immediately says, you know what, it's not worth trying to fit this Volibear. I'm just going to sell him immediately. And I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. He does a pretty good pivot here, gets the Lilia in here. Gonna throw the triple item onto, oh, actually he's gonna go double item Lilia, double item onto the Saloon here. So yeah, not 3-iteming his carry because he wants to go for better items down the line, especially because of the fact that we have Pandoras. We can guarantee a third damage item there. I think this is something that some people would certainly disagree with, not 3-iteming the Lilia here. I think, you know, I talked to Demacian Raptor when I was prepping for last cup, rank 1, well, okay, maybe not rank 1 EUNE. He's been rank 1 in the past. He might not be rank 1 EUNE right now. But like, I'm pretty sure if you showed him this spot, he would say it's incorrect to not put Static Shiv onto Lilia here. He would say like, you should be 3-iteming the Lilia here, which is, I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, you know, that's one of the cool things about TFT is different people have different perspectives on what the optimal play is. This way, we do get to kind of greed for BIS on everyone. Morgana keeps the support items. You put the Morello on her for sure, and then Lilia, we can greed for like a death cap or some kind of damage item that's secondary here. So yeah, I mean, I think you can be pretty happy with this spot. Also pretty happy with our roll downs. The only downside is our Call to Chaos was just a bunch of gold, which is really, really scary here. Because we have Pandoras, you can theoretically take whatever here, but yeah, I like just taking a real item that you want, like a rod here. This can be Death Cap, it can be Gunblade or like Archangels if it has to be. I believe we would ideally want a Death Cap in this position. And the other interesting thing about this is we are going to continue to roll here. I think it makes sense, right? After hitting Lilia 2, I think we're absolutely done rolling in this spot right now, but I think it actually makes a lot of sense to roll there. He's considering, like, he has the Soraka in right now, who's just 3 Heavenly. I mean, the AP onto the board is pretty nice. He could, I guess, we could play the Janna on this board, but because of the Annie, we don't really need her for Invoker, so that would just be an extra Dragonlord on the board. He considered getting 3 Dragonlord in, but I think he thinks that 3 of the Heavenly is actually stronger here, which honestly, like, 3 Dragonlord, not a big spike, so I kind of see it. He's trying to figure out what strongest board is here, and he's stuck on the Soraka, which I see it. I mean, Soraka is the best unit of those 3 by far. Maybe Lee Sin could do something, but the silence from Soraka, the Mana Reave is just so nice. And 3 Heavenly is also really, really nice AP to our entire team, also giving us more of the other stats. I think this is actually strongest board. It's really smart from Ego Illusions to figure this out because so many people, I think, would just say like, well, I have to put Janna on this board. But actually, I mean, you don't have to. So yeah, this is going to be our board for now. Ego Illusions still trying to figure out the board, saying, I have the Radiant Blue buff, I have the Annie. I can play for a 4 Invoker version of this board on level up, which I think makes perfect sense. Blue buff so good with the Invoker version of Lilia when you play towards more vertical Invoker, just because she's getting so much mana, and blue buff is reducing her max mana. So I really, really like this. And he is going to end up making the Archangels here, like I said, not BIS, and I think he was trying to greed for a Death Cap there, but didn't get the opportunity to make Death Cap. But he's not going to like sit around and wait, you know, a million years to try to find a Death Cap. He's just going to make Archangels, which is a good enough item. So much good enough, like, playing for tempo. This game from Ego Illusion shows why he's so high ranked on the server, because if you play like this, it's really, really hard for you to bot for. He's always playing a strong board throughout the game, always just slamming items that are good enough here, and he wins this fight, which is so huge here. The next question is, are we leveling next round? Oh, Koboko Dancing is really good for us because we have open component here. We'd like to pick up a 3rd item for this Morgana here, and there's a decent chance that Koboko gives us a component, or maybe even more than one here. Also pick up a Rakan, which is really, really nice here. And yeah, we are going to opt to just level for that Rakan. The Rakan allows us to play 4 Dragonlord with the Lee Sin, but it also allows us to play Altruist, so it's kind of difficult again, but he decides just to play 4 Dragonlord. He says this is too big of a spike to skip, and the Altruist is not worth it enough versus the fact that I get to play 4 Dragonlord here, which I think is pretty reasonable. The stun onto the enemy board is so nice. So yeah, we're going to play 4 Dragonlord here, and I don't know, maybe we can level up again for like a 5 Dragonlord. I guess we'll see what the rest of the game looks like for us. It's kind of interesting that, like, there's nowhere that we can actually fit 5 Dragon Lord here, because, yeah, I feel like you'd love to play it. He's like, if we find Nautilus too, we can cut the Annie, but right now there's no way we're cutting this Annie. Cutting Alawi also feels really bad. You lose Arcanist, you lose Ghostly, you lose Warden, you lose so much. Same thing with cutting either the Nico or the Nautilus. You end up losing Mythic, which is a lot of damage onto the Lilia, also a lot of tankiness for your Mythic units. Maybe that's the most cuttable, but like still, if you cut Nautilus, you lose a lot of frontline. But yeah, he just says 5 Dragon Lord is not worth losing all of that stuff. Maybe if we hit not to, Alawi to, then we can decide to get out of the Annie, but not right now. Itemize here, you just want another tank item, but looks like, okay, I guess we're taking a red buff here. Yeah, red buff or red buff, Morello as our options. I mean, we can throw this onto like Rakan and some extra damage for him. Ooh, I'm actually surprised about this roll down here. It looks like he just wants to roll for a good unit to put on the board, and maybe he was trying to roll for that Wukong all along, but I'm a little surprised by that roll. At 50 HP, I kind of thought we could go 10 in this spot, but maybe his idea is that this board is actually just not good enough to go 10. Oh, he does have the opportunity to speaking of like greeting items in some spots and not in others, he could just reroll the red buff. I would have been really tempted to just throw it onto Rakan here. It's attack speed, it's whatever. But Ego Illusion says it's actually correct to greed the red buff here. We can greed it into like a tank item for Annie, a AP item for Rakan. There's actually like a lot of good stuff that we could end up hitting. So honestly, I see it. It's a pretty smart call there to actually reforge the red buff. And just, I mean, there's also even like Wukong item that we could end up, you know, like this, if we were 1 HP, this wouldn't even be the worst case. But at 50 HP, we can reforge items. Maybe not all day long, but, you know, we're going into minions next round, so we get, like, 2 rounds to reforge it. And if we get, like, a tank item for Annie, this was hugely beneficial. And we still won those fights, so really, really nice stuff from Ego Illusions to play for, his max cap to play for, his strongest setup. If we get a Renons here, probably going to reforge that. And if we get an item that we can throw into Annie, like a Redemption, like a Warmogs, I'm sure that we're just going to make that. We could actually wait on the reforge to see what we reforge into. That's probably the best thing to do, is open the anvil with a little bit of time left and then wait onto the reforge. We don't ever really want to reforge this. Okay, we got Starax. That's a good enough. Ooh, pop. I think you should pop the anvil first there just to see. But it looks like it didn't end up actually making that much of a difference. Adaptive Helm for Rakan, I guess, is our, or even the Nautilus. I could see it, yeah. Both their abilities hugely influential, and we're a lot closer to Nautilus 2 than we are Rakan 2, so I see it. And yeah, I mean, this is just gonna be our board at this point. I just like, what a cool board. Like we got to play this comp, even though we had the Sniper Plus when I thought we were playing snipers. It's just a really, really cool game that shows like you don't have to lock into your comp immediately at the start of the game. I think so many people would see, oh my god, I got a Radiant blue buff, but I think I want to play towards Ashe. I'm just going to wait until I reforge a good item for Ashe. But Ego Illusion's flexible here. He sees the Radiant blue buff and says, well, I can very easily play this comp as well. I still get to use the Dragon Lord and the Heavenly, so it all kind of works out. And also really, really smart to not kind of get baited into playing like the traditional like Lee Sin like Heavenly comp, because like, I mean, that comp's fine, but I don't think it's good enough to end up playing from this spot, especially when you end up getting like Radiant blue buff here. So really, really smart stuff from Ego Illusions. He could level this round if he wanted to, right? 64 to level, but he's going to opt to sack 1. He is sort of like off interval because of the Exalted XP, I think, right? Because it's 64, he could just level on interval here, but he's going to opt to potentially sack 1 here, just so he has a little bit more gold to roll. Maybe he thinks he can sack 2 here, but 34 HP, I would be really, really scared about that. Going into Carousel here, we just want like Con item, Nautilus item. He's going to go for the GS here. I'm not actually sure who that's going on. I would have probably wanted something else here, but yeah, we are going to level here, get the Lee Sin in here, maybe pick up a Wukong 2 on the roll down. There's our Con pair. He is also the second, like I talked about, the second he picks up the Nautilus 2, he's going to get out of that Annie because he can play this board, throws these items onto Wukong, and yeah, he can just play around the Nautilus as his main tank instead, which I think is such a smart call here to get in the 5 Dragon Lord. That's so much extra damage, so much extra attack speed onto this board. It doesn't give you any more of a stun, but gives you a lot more to work with. We lose this fight, but we do have the Rakan 2 coming here. Hopefully that can be enough to swing the fight, because that fight was really, really close. I mean, this guy is 31 HP, but man, like if we could get a Wukong 2, the 5 Dragon Lord, I feel like this was correct out of him to get out of the Annie, because we do have enough frontline, but you know, it's definitely scary versus this really, really strong board with a ton of duelists on it. Irelia with like basically BIS sitting in the background is really, really scary. We do burst down a lot of the front line here. This looks really, really good. The Rakan 2 maybe helped a lot, and we end up winning that fight. So we live to see another day. We're going to have a 1 fight at 7-1 that's going to decide the entire game. Looking for Rakan item here, probably off of the the, what is this, Rift Herald? Though honestly, you should probably roll first before you pick your items so that you can have the opportunity to see if you hit Wukong 2. Because if it's Wukong 2, I mean, maybe you always itemize Wukong 2 here, honestly. It's certainly Wukong 2 if you hit him. Ooh, also interesting call from Ego Illusions. Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, I don't really agree. Okay, yeah, just Hodge here for the Wukong, or double Sterax is his idea? Oh, Redemption Wukong. Interesting. Wow. Gonna get him to a slightly faster cast, gonna get him just that extra damage reduction. That's wild to me, the Redemption over Hodge here, but I mean, he takes it. Yeah, I don't know about that, but hey, I mean, maybe it's enough. This fight's so close. Lilia cast right at the end and actually wins him the game. Holy moly, what a game. Just so wild, start to finish. The pivot with the Radiant Blue buff, I think, was so smart, and really cool playing around a Wandering Trainer that wasn't so straightforward. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Twitch and all my other links down below. Thanks for watching.